Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have my Christmas and December book haul. So I actually acquired a lot of books over December, and thank you so much to everybody who did gift me something over the festive period. I have done quite a few haul type videos throughout the month, however, so the amount of books I'm going to be talking about today is significantly less than the amount that I have actually received. So in this haul we will be talking about 27 books. As usual, this month's book haul will be separated into groups of where I acquired them from. So this month's sections are going to be books that I acquired secondhand, books that I received as gifts, books sent to me by publishers, and subscription box books. But aside from that, I don't feel like this book haul needs any other introduction. So let us get started, starting with the books I received as gifts. So first up, I feel like we should mention that I received these 12 books from you lovely guys throughout December, but I did make a separate video where I unboxed all of these, which I will link up in the cards if you want to find out what is in this stack. But thank you so much to everybody who gifted me one of these. The first thing I'm going to be mentioning today is not a book, but it is bookish related, and this was gifted to me by my boyfriend Curtis, and that is the Throne of Glass Embers of Memory game. This is a 2-player card game and it is set during Kingdom of Ash. I have opened it and flicked through, but there is some beautiful character card art in here. So here we have Dorian. I have not played this yet. I want to play it very soon. It is a 2-player co-op game, and I think from what I can gather, one character takes the role of Aelin while another takes the role of Fenris, and the aim of the game is to help Aelin fight through her memories. I love strategy card games. I love Throne of Glass, so I will be excited to play this. I think I may do a video on playing this, although it's not a kind of video I've done before, so I'm unsure how to do that at this moment, but I will try and get a video of me playing this up on my channel at some point. So for the books, first up I have manga, and that is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas by Yori Sumino and Adumi Kirihara. This was kindly gifted to me by Kelsey, so thank you Kelsey for that. I have actually already read this one, so you will get full information on this in my December wrap up. But this is one of my favorite types of manga, which is a shoujo manga that deals with difficult topics. And in this one we follow a boy who has just been to the hospital to have stitches out when he comes across a book lying abandoned on a seat. He picks it up and opens it and finds out that it belongs to one of his classmates. However, the main character is very introverted, and the classmate this book belongs to is very popular and outgoing, and the book that he finds is a diary that is chronicling this girl's terminal cancer. Next up we have The Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin, which was kindly gifted to me by Mariam, so thank you so much for this. This is a tiny little children's story set in the A Song of Ice and Fire world. I don't know too much about it, although it does chronicle one of the fairy tales, I would say, of the A Song of Ice and Fire world. In one of the later books, I'm not sure if it's Feast for Crows or A Dance with Dragons, this story is very briefly mentioned. It is one of the stories that is told to children in that world as a cautionary tale. We also have some very beautiful illustrations in this. I haven't read this one yet, but I'm hoping that I can squeeze it into December, fingers crossed. But I'm very happy to own it, as hopefully I will be making my way through the spin-offs and extras to the A Song of Ice and Fire series in 2020. Next up we have 3 books from Tracy. Thank you very much, Tracy. I'm not really going to talk about these individually because I don't know too much about the individual plots, but they do all share a theme. So Tracy kindly gifted to me 3 books from the Penguin English Library Classics editions, which I am collecting, and the 3 that she gifted me were Robinson Crusoe, Treasure Island and the Ebb Tide, and Gulliver's Travels. So I'm looking to branch out into fantasy, sci-fi and adventure classics as opposed to reading the most popular and most traditional ones. These are 3 of the ones that I have had my eye on for the longest time and I really wanted to read, just because these stories tend to be quite well known, but I actually don't know that much about them. Funnily enough, something that I did not realize when I added these to my wish list is that all 3 of these stories follow shipwrecked characters. I knew that Robinson Crusoe was definitely a shipwrecked story, but all 3 of these featured shipwrecked main characters, which I was shocked about when I received them. Next we have Spellslinger by Sebastian D. Castell, which was kindly gifted to me by Erica, so thank you very much, Erica. This is one of Jade from Jade Ray Reid's favourite books. So I'd seen this in Waterstones when the hardback was released a few years ago, and I thought the cover was absolutely stunning, but I didn't pick it up. However, Jade's enthusiasm for this series made me really want to read it. This is a young adult fantasy book. I think there's 5 books in the series, series. The last book was just published. My knowledge on this is limited, but I believe we follow a guy who is about to enter a magic tournament to make him a spellcaster. This is quite a common thing in the world, I believe. However, his magic has disappeared, and I think he essentially cons his way through his trials. Then we have a book gifted to me by Kimberly, so thank you very much, Kimberly, and that is Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nyan. Now, this is the sequel to Girls of Paper and Fire, which is a young adult fantasy series that deals with sexual assault in a fantasy setting. So in this world, we follow Lay, and Lay has been forced to become a paper girl, which is essentially a concubine to the king. Now, in this world, we have three castes. We have the paper caste, which is human and the bottom of the tier, and then we have a half human, half demon caste, and then the top caste, which is the royalty and nobility of the world, and they are fully demon, complete with animalistic features and traits and things like that. As I said, this deals with sexual assault, with Lay forcefully becoming a concubine, so trigger warnings for that if you want to read this series. I enjoyed Girls of Paper and Fire. I didn't overwhelmingly love it, but my experience of reading it was very positive overall, so I am very excited to get to this. I'm not sure, I think it's a duology and this is the last book, so I'm interested to see where the story goes in this one, because it will be a very different setting from the first book. Next, I have the books that were gifted to me by my best friend Ryan. Thank you very much, Ryan. Not that you ever watch my videos, but the first one is another Penguin English Library edition, and that is War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Once again, my knowledge of this one is limited, but it is a sci-fi classic, which is why I'm very interested in reading it, and I think this follows an alien invasion, although I'm not sure if the aliens are necessarily present, but there is definitely like big machinery that is killing everybody. I did watch the movie for this a long time ago, but in spite of it being a sci-fi, it was predominantly an action movie, which aren't my favorite, so I don't actually remember a whole lot about the movie. I did read my first classic sci-fi this month and I really enjoyed it, so I'm even more excited to read this and more classic sci-fi now. Ryan also gifted me Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the illustrated edition. I do have the first three books in this series. I believe Ryan also bought me the third one. I have read the first three, although I have just recently reread Goblet of Fire, so it will be a while before I'm rereading the illustrated edition. But this cover is my favorite of the series so far. Upon reread, this is my favorite book in the series so far. I still need to reread the last three. I have heard that the illustrations in this aren't as good as in the previous three, because instead of making the book significantly longer, they've just put significantly less illustrations in. But regardless, this is absolutely stunning and I'm glad that I can add it to my collection. The final book that Ryan gifted to me is a book that I really wanted to read, and that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Now, I read Margaret Rogerson's debut around this time last year and I actually really enjoyed it, so I have been very hyped for this one. Now, this one has received mixed reviews, but the first one also did, and I'm wondering if it is just a matter of perspective, as it was with Margaret Rogerson's first book, where people were expecting a big fantasy story, but the first book in Enchantment of Ravens is a fantasy romance. So I'm wondering if this one has not been correctly summarized and the actual contents of the book is different from what people expect, but I do have high hopes for this one. So the plot of this one is that we follow a girl who works in some kind of library, I think, looking after grimoires. I do believe that the books are also dangerous in this world, and one of them escapes and the main character is blamed for it, which causes her to go on this adventure. I've heard that the love interest character in here is compared to Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, which is a character that I really love, so I'm hoping I can get to this one sometime soon. But you know me, I say that about everything. And the final three books that were gifted to me this month were all gifted to me from the wonderful Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. And I'll show you, not the first book, I'll show you the following three books and then the first book. It will make sense when you see them. But her main Christmas gift to me was the Lord of the Rings trilogy in these beautiful hardbacks. Now, Lord of the Rings is of course a classic fantasy series that follows a hobbit and his band of companions who are trying to return a dangerous ring to Mordor. This is a very popular and high esteemed fantasy series, so I've wanted to read it for a very long time. However, the editions that I owned of this series were a massive bind up that was just not readable because the font was tiny and it was a brick. So Ashley kindly replaced my awful edition with these three singular ones in these beautiful hardback covers, which I have been staring at in Waterstones for quite some time. So thank you very much, Ashley, for these ones. And then the final book that Ashley gifted to me was a book that she had a duplicate of that was very fitting with the Christmas gift that she gave me, because it is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a prequel to The Lord of the Rings, and I think this follows Frodo? Bilbo, as he is acquiring the ring that they are later trying to return to Mordor in The Lord of the Rings. So next up, we will move on to the books that I've acquired second hand this month. Shout out to these 5 lovely paperbacks. I did make a video earlier in the month where I challenged myself to see how many books I could pick up second hand for the price of a brand new hardback release. So if you would like to check out that video and see what I managed to pick up, I will link it in the cards up here for you guys. So the first 5 second hand books that I'm going to be talking about are actually once again from Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, who did an on-haul video not too long ago and asked me if I was interested in any of the books that she no longer wanted. So the first one of these is Sisters of the Winterwood by Rena Rossner, and this is a very fairy tale-esque European inspired story about 2 sisters who discover that they have a magical heritage. So I've been interested in this one for a while because it does have magical folklore-y fairy tale-esque aspects to it, and I mean that cover is stunning, so how could you not be drawn to it? Then we have one of BookTube's favourites, The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. So this would not normally be my usual thing because it is magical realism, but when a book is as hyped as this one is, I do like to break outside of the normal genres that I read and give it a try. What I know about the plot of this is that it follows Ava Lavender, but this is actually a generational story. So I believe that we follow quite a few generations before we get to Ava Lavender, and I think she's born with wings and nobody really knows why. Trigger warnings for sexual assault, I believe, in this as well, but this has made a lot of people cry, and I've also heard that it is very beautifully written. Next up, we have The Last Beginning by Lauren James. This is a sci-fi story, and this is a sequel to The Next Together, which I own but have not read. So this story is about 2 teenagers who are destined to be together. They are reincarnated multiple times, and in every lifetime they are drawn to each other. However, every time they find each other, one of them is ripped away from the other before they can find happiness. This keeps happening over and over again, and I would assume that the story is about breaking that cycle. This is a sequel to that, so I'm not too sure where the plot goes in this, or even if it follows the same characters, but The Next Together is a book that has seemed so appealing to me for the longest time. So when Ashley was getting rid of the sequel, I thought I may as well snatch it while I can. Y'all are gonna hate me for not knowing a lot about this, but Ashley also gave me The Colour of Magic by Terry Pratchett, which is the first book in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Now, I actually attempted to read this when I was a child, and it was not a fun time because the writing style in this is very complex and very particular. Now, this is another series like Lord of the Rings that is a huge fantasy series that is a classic and so expansive. I actually do not know anything about the plot of the Discworld series. I don't know whether every book follows on or whether it's similar to Robin Hobb, where it's a series of smaller series that make a big universe. But I do remember this is like a 15-year-old memory. I remember that in the first chapter of this, we discover a world or a universe that is on the back of a giant turtle that's floating through space. So I know that about this, but the overall plot I don't know much about. I just know that this is the starting point, and as I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, and I'm now trying to delve into the classics of the genre, I feel like I should at least be attempting these big expansive fantasy series as well. A book that I'm really not sure how I'm going to feel about is Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Maria Griffin. This is a story that I'm not sure who the story follows, but a house was burned down, 2 people went missing, and nobody knows what happened aside from 2 other people who spent 2 summers with the people who went missing, and across those 2 summers very strange things happened. Now, this story seems like it is going to be ambiguous. It seems like it may be speculative fiction. You guys know those are not my faves. If anything is super vague and ambiguous, I am not about it. But this popped on my radar earlier in the year. I haven't heard too many reviews about it. I kind of would like to hear more before I commit to reading this, but I will give it a try at some point. The last 3 secondhand books are ones that I picked up myself. The first 2 I got from a charity shop, and they are both in the same series, and they are Throne of Jade and Black Powder War by Naomi Novik. Now, I don't know many people who have read this series, and considering how popular Uprooted and Spinning Silver are, I would have expected to have heard more reviews on this series. And these are the second and third books in the Temera series. The first book in the UK editions is called Temera, but I believe that it has a different name in the US. And I think that this series follows the Napoleonic War, but with dragons. That's all I know about this. These covers are absolutely stunning. Normally, I would not pick up sequels to a book that I haven't read in a charity shop. I tend to hold back because I don't have a whole lot of space left, but I am looking for these editions specifically, and these books have been reprinted, so I snatched these up while I had the chance. And the final book I picked up secondhand is one of my favorites that I did not own, and that is Stormdancer by Jade. I bought this off Georgie, who is a bookstagrammer. Her bookstagram is Niffler Reads. And this is the out of print UK hardback for Jade Kristoff's first adult series. Georgie was selling this really cheap because she did spray the edges herself, but honestly I think they're stunning and they match the cover perfectly. So this is a steampunky, dystopian-y, sci-fi fantasy series that follows a girl who is the daughter of the Shogun's Master of the Hunt. This is a world that is heavily polluted, and all of the animals and the wildlife are dying off, and the citizens have to wear respirators to be able to breathe and to avoid contracting this disease that is similar to lung cancer. Now, our main character Yukiko and her father are summoned by the Shogun because he has decided that he wants a thunder tiger, which is a mythical beast. Now, as I said, this world is heavily polluted and there are not many normal animals hanging around, never mind mythical creatures. However, Yukiko and her father can't say no because if they do, the Shogun will kill them. So they essentially go on this wild goose chase to find an animal that probably doesn't exist. So next I just have one book that was sent to me by the publisher, and that was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, which is the sequel to Skyward. This was published by Glanks on the 26th of November, and they sent it to me to hype the release. I have not read this series yet, but the covers are absolutely stunning, and I have read one book by Brandon Sanderson, one of his Cosmere books that I very thoroughly enjoyed, and I will be reading a lot more Brandon Sanderson in 2020. This is published as adult in the UK, but this is Brandon Sanderson's young adult sci-fi series that follows a girl called Spencer who is going to pilot school. However, she is not going to be having a pleasant time there because her father actually deserted the army and he is looked at as a traitor, which then in turn tarnishes Spencer's reputation. Cody from Cody's Book Corner absolutely loves this. I mean, she loves everything Sanderson, so she may not be the best person for an unbiased review, but me and Cody do have very similar reading tastes, so I know I'm going to love this as well, especially now that I'm reading a lot more science fiction and loving it. And then the last 4 books I did receive in my Illumicrate and Owlcrate subscription boxes. So in the November Owlcrate, I received Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. This is Shay Earnshaw's sophomore novel, her debut being The Wicked Deep, which was super hyped last year. I'm just trying to remove the glare off this because it's very pale and very shiny. So like The Wicked Deep, this is also a very witchy standalone tale, and this one follows the Walker women. The Walker women have a lot of mystery and folklore surrounding them, and in this book we follow Nora, who is rumoured to be a witch. I think I'm going to be getting a lot of atmospheric vibes in this one. I have yet to read The Wicked Deep. I do not actually own The Wicked Deep, but after all the hype it received last year, it is something I'm definitely interested in, and it sounds like Winterwood is going to be more of the same. In the December Owlcrate, I received The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten White. Kirsten White is pretty much known for feminist retellings and pulling the female characters out of mythology and legend and bringing them to the forefront of their own narratives. Now, the Guinevere Deception follows, of course, Guinevere. However, in this story, I believe Guinevere is a changeling who has sacrificed a lot to marry King Arthur and save the kingdom. That's all I know, but I love Arthurian legend. Surprisingly, being English, Arthurian legend is not something that is common in our stories. It's not something that we're told as children, and if you want to know more about Arthurian legend in this country, you have to go out and look for it. But with it being British history or British legend, I am very interested in it. So I'm excited to see what this retelling has to bring to the round table, if you know what I'm saying. Now, in the November Illumicrate, I received the Illumicrate edition of The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is a book that I already own. This is a secondary copy, and And actually both of the Illumicrate books are secondary copies of books that I've recently acquired because I was very interested in reading them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them, and if I don't like them that much, I will probably give away the Illumicrate editions. So I believe that the Starless Sea follows a young man who is in a library when he discovers a book that is full of fairy tales and folklore. However, as he is reading through it, he finds out that the book is creepily starting to mirror his life, and I believe that this young man at one point had found a door painted onto a wall and had decided not to go through it, and the book tells the story of what would have happened if he had gone through the door. There are also 3 clue type things, which are the bee, the key, and the sword. There's a labyrinth in this book. That's all I know about it so far. I think it's pretty whimsical and ambiguous, like The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and we will have to see if I like that about this. I'm not too sure about this one, but I'm hoping I enjoy it. And then the final book for this book haul is Blood Air by Amelie Wen Zhao. Now, this is a book that received a lot of controversy. The release of this book was pushed back due to some racial insensitivity that was picked up in the first round of review copies, I believe. So the release has been pushed back. I believe whatever issues were in there have been fixed, and this is a book that I was very excited for anyway, so I'm glad that the release did go ahead and it wasn't pulled completely. So in this story we follow Anastasia, and Anastasia is a princess who has an affinity to blood, which I'm assuming means she has some kind of blood magic. People do fear her for this, and so when her father is murdered, she is blamed for it and is forced to run away. While she's on the run, she does come across a crime lord called Ramzan, and they band together to achieve both of their goals, whatever that may be. So that is it for my December book haul. Thank you so much to anybody who has gifted me a book that was present in this haul or any of the previous hauls that I have done recently. Please let me know which one of the books that I've hauled today you guys are most excited for me to read, or let me know if you have read any of them yourself and what you thought of them. Going through into 2020, I am hoping to be reducing the amount of book hauls I'm doing, or not necessarily reducing the amount of book hauls, but just reducing the amount of books, because honestly I have enough reading material to last me 3 to 5 years depending on my speed. As this is the first video that I am posting after Christmas, I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas, and please let me know if you received any books over the festive period that you are super excited to get to. But aside from that, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you will find links to my Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as links to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.